Well, that's that then. That's pretty much everything you can expect from this tournament, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. Obviously, I realize that watching Scarlet is kind of the priority right now. You'll be able to see Scarlet again in a PvZ later on tonight. And if you happen to decide, you know what, I really want to go watch those finals in 15 minutes, don't worry, all the VODs will be available. And day 2, I'm pretty sure we're clashing with nothing. So tournament delays will not actually cause us any problems. We're about ready to get started. The first map is going to be Bell-Shear Vestige right here. That should be a nice classic start.
That it is. And a pretty balanced map for CVP. Some Protosses like it, some Zergs like it. I say, if anything, so maybe it leans a little bit towards Protoss, but nothing big either way.
Yeah, that's certainly true. We've seen some great results on this from either race. So I wouldn't expect anything massively out of the ordinary here. As we go into the first map, it's going to be mYinsanity.Kane versus ROOTMinigun here as the first match in the round of 8 of ShoutCraft America Winter, brought to you by ShoutCraft.Ting.com. As I said earlier, don't get freaked out by the strong colors. Trust me, it will make your observation experience an awful lot better. Alright. But you will have to give me a moment just to make sure that I know what I'm doing with these new hotkeys. So, GameHeart Lite, by the way, is an absolutely phenomenal mod map. I would strongly recommend it to pretty much anybody, but you do have to learn a few hotkeys in order to actually make it work properly. So, that's a thing. But we are about ready to get started, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bell-Shear Vestige. It's my pleasure to introduce our first contestant here in ShoutCraft America Winter, brought to you by Ting.com. In the light blue trunks, who said very much he enjoyed the freedom of being able to pick something that wasn't red or standard blue. Playing Protoss to the northwest, it is ROOTMinigun. Versus his opponent to the southeast position here, playing for mYinsanity, formerly of Root. In the green trunks playing Zerg, it is the ShoutCraft America champion, Kane.
I like that. He's explicitly excited about not having to play red or blue, and so he picks light blue.
Well, it's kind of a different blue, isn't it?
It's a little bit different.
It's just a bit. I think you picked it maybe because it goes nicely with the Root logo there.
You can't go too crazy with your first time with that freedom.
Yeah, you've got to be careful. He was actually freaking out a little bit in the Skype group because he had never had access to such freedom before, and it was just making him feel a little bit uncomfortable.
That's completely understandable. With Kane going whole hog right to the green.
Straight to the green, yep. Which is going to be a little bit odd because we'll just see normal green banelings. I'm kind of disappointed. I actually want to see Kane go orange.
Oh, he's actually scouting. I've never seen Minigun actually go for any kind of proxy 2-gate, but Kane opened up with a pull first and scouted his main for a proxy. So it seems like he's actually kind of worried, but then he doesn't scout the normal cannon position behind the natural, which is a really, really big threat on Bell-Shear. So that's kind of a weird mix between unnecessarily risky and unnecessarily safe for Kane.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd, actually. That is definitely something I have not seen Minigun do, and I've watched his stream quite a bit. But it is a best-of-5 series, and Minigun does compete in tournaments from time to time, but I don't think that he's really had the chance to run into Kane much ever since the previous Shoutcraft, where I believe they did go up against each other, and I'm fairly sure that it was Kane kind of taking that, I wouldn't say one-sided, but it definitely looked in Kane's favor most of the series there. So maybe Minigun and Kane just have this weird relationship since then, and they're not entirely sure what each player is actually going to do.
Yeah, they were teammates, and that always throws a whole, especially they practice together a lot, and they are both pretty big ladder players, so I'm sure regardless of the team situation, they played each other quite a bit. Whenever you have a good feel for someone's playstyle, and you know they have a good feel for yours, anything can happen because you're both playing mind games and trying to mess that read that you're worried that your opponent has up. So, pretty unpredictable, probably. Very normal openings from both. Minigun actually going for the double gas right away, so we're not going to see any kind of very quick zealot shenanigans that are really popular in PvZ right now. But on the other hand, Kane actually went for a very quick speedling after his pool first, which is a really safe and really kind of bad economy build. And it's going to be very unnecessary because Minigun, like I said, not going to go for that early zealot pressure. So he doesn't even need the fast speedlings. And a really fast robo. This is actually, it could be kind of good for Minigun if nothing weird happens, because Kane just isn't really going to have a great economy going with that pull first and then getting very fast speedling. And Minigun's going to have access to a really, really quick immortal pressure. But Kane can scout it right away, so that should help him counterbalance that.
Yeah, Minigun also grabbed a mothership call really, really early, but didn't take too much of a risk going out on the map with it. We often see Protoss take that mothership core and just drive it straight across the map immediately, see what they can do, maybe pick off a unit or two, get some good scouting information. But we didn't see that here from Minigun, and only now is he deciding to move across the map with the mothership core. Still, Kane has not gone back into gas here, so no intention of going to a lair yet.
Yeah, right now he's just trying to play catch up on his economy, because that pull first into hatchery into speedling really, really hurts your drone count quite a bit. So he's going to spend some time trying to compensate for that. And an immediate immortal coming out from Minigun.
Yeah.
Often when you go a robo that fast, it's to get a warp prism out and do some harassment, but he's going straight immortal, which means that if he really wants to commit to it, he could have like a 2 immortal, maybe 9-minute or even earlier all in, and he's actually going to kill a queen off here. So
yeah,
Kane's really just very uncomfortable in this early game so far.
Yeah, he really, really is. And obviously that Zealot's going to go down, but that's fine. The Zealot even got a decent position to fight in, and this mothership core is having a field day, taking out another Zergling as well. Killing that queen so early is actually huge. I mean, Kane is not going to be able to spread his creep. He's not going to be able to inject on all 3 hatcheries yet. I wonder how much this will really affect him, but honestly, that queen should have never died in the first place, right?
No, it shouldn't have. It was really sloppy. Like you mentioned, he didn't send that mothership core out immediately. He was playing really defensive because he didn't get a unit early on. He was going for this fast tech, not for any kind of a warp gate rush. So Kane just kind of saw that and was just playing kind of cocky. He didn't think there was anything he had to worry about. So he had that queen out there all nice and ready to get the injects going. And he just didn't see the Zealot and the mothership core walking across the map. And there's already 2 immortals with a 3rd one coming out. So this is actually going to be like a super all-in. He has only 2 gases, which Kane is scouting. So he knows it's going to be an all-in. But this is the kind of build that's just so powerful that even if you know it's coming, when you take damage early on, as Kane has, kind of inefficient build order, and then losing that queen, sometimes you just can't stop it even if you know it's coming. And this is a very powerful build.
Yeah, it's looking really, really good already here for Minigun. A Spine Crawler's going up, there's being Roaches added, but of course these 3 Immortals are going to make very quick work of 7 Roaches. War Prism's coming in. Great placement of the Zergling there by Kane to see this going out. So he's got as much warning as he could have ever possibly wanted. He's going to attempt a run-by, actually, and there is currently nothing... Oh, never mind here. Minigun actually walled himself off after he left, so he realized the possibility of a Zergling flank. He's now warping in a Zealot and a Sentry to try and deal with that. Pylon went down, but Minigun puts down another one. There's a lot of Lings pressuring this front, though. I actually have to wonder if this will break it.
He used his force field in the wrong place. He didn't... The morphing pylon went down.
And now Lings are in the base, so this is not going to go well. A couple of Zealots get into place, though, and now here comes the push on the 3rd, and Kane cannot possibly defend that right now. He's going to have to back away. The force fields trap a huge amount of Roaches there up against the side of this ramp, so that's going to be a lot of dead Roaches very, very quickly here. The Lings are still in the base. Damage has been done, but not a huge amount yet by Kane. Admittedly, the mining on the natural has been dealt with. Minigun trying his best to make this work. Wondering whether... Ah, there's the Warp Prism just kind of joining the fight here. I see another Immortal goes down, and actually, Kane is starting to shove this back in a pretty big way.
Yeah, Kane's going to be able to hold this easily at this point. Having to spend all those warp ins to try and defend
GG.
really, really messed up Minigun's push, and then he can't defend anyway. That was kind of all in here.
All right, well, let's see if that prediction actually ends up being the case then. And here we go into the game. Try the other button. There we go. Wonderful. Getting used to this new interface is always fun. Alright, folks. Well, an appropriate color here for this nice icy map. He's actually camouflaging his units, which seems horribly unfair. His name is ROOTMinigun. He is playing Protoss to the north of Polar Knight versus his opponent, who is currently up 1 game in this best-of-5 series to the south position. This time in the red trunks. That freedom is starting to get to Kane. I'm not okay with this. I think we're going to lose control of our player stable any moment here. He is mYinsanity.Kane. So at this point... Sorry, go ahead.
From Minigun, we see a gateway expansion again, which is pretty much the standard PvZ. But especially on this map in particular, it's very, very good. I'm interested to see if he puts down a 2nd gas or not, because on this map, the gateway expansion into 4 gateway Zealot can be almost unholdable if you go for a very early 3rd base. And I'm curious to see if he tries to abuse that. He hasn't put down a 2nd gas yet, so that could be the case. And a 2nd pylon goes down, so I think we might be seeing that. You know, is Kane actually going to go for 3 hatch before pool?
I mean, he was looking for it. Yeah, I was going to say
scouting it out.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting idea against a player like Minigun, especially considering his tendencies that we saw previously. But no, he just
actually he is. I think.
Is he really?
I think he
yeah,
is.
I mean, he's going to his third
is.
base right now. All right.
I actually really like that because this is the kind of map where Gateway Expansion into some kind of fast rush is really, really good because Gateway Expansion just opens up all of these different opportunities. But Gateway Expansion doesn't give you a whole lot of ability to punish that quick third base. And last game we saw Minigun didn't probe scout at all, didn't even send out a quick mothership core. So this is really smart mind games from Kane. It's a very aggressive map. Like I said, it's a tiny map. You don't look at this and think, okay, I'm going to play the greediest build Zerg has in its arsenal. But because of all these different circumstances, this is actually pretty safe, and it's a really good risk to take. And if it pays off, that gives you the ability to deal with all of that aggression that Protoss is capable of putting on in the early mid-game. So this is actually really smart by Kane, I think.
Yeah, and it seems to be working already. We did see the Nexus after the Cyber Core, and we do have Warp Gate coming up. The Chrono Boost goes into the Mothership Core, however, and not into its Warp Gate. Not that boosting the Warp Gate at this point would actually help in any way. He doesn't have the production to really back that up. But it seems like if you go with this kind of build order and you're up against a 3-hatch before pool, and the Zerg is just sitting in a pretty comfortable spot from there on in.
Yeah, Zerg is absolutely comfortable. We do see a Stalker first coming out from Minigun. If he really wants to invest in that, that could turn into some kind of prolonged harassment. But we have an immediate gas and speedling from Kane as well, which is really smart on his part. That's absolutely what you should do at this point to try and take map control as quickly as possible and take advantage of your economy. But with that speedling coming out, he's going to be able to shut down anything. And an immediate Twilight Council actually coming from Minigun. He's a big fan of DT builds, so I would not be surprised to see that. This is kind of too early to go for any kind of normal blink all in, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be DT from him. And it's well positioned. I don't think Kane's going to be able to scout that too easily, especially with the Stalker first to scare out the Overlords.
Yeah, that's a really nifty move there from him. We noticed that the Overlord is to the south of the base, and really, we got the patrol line. Minigun already knows. It's like, look, I'm hiding this, so you're probably absolutely right when it comes to the idea of hiding a dark shrine there. What's Minigun's gas count's looking pretty good right now, and there is the shrine going up right next to the Twilight Council. This map,
some Zerglings got in the natural. They could get in and scout this.
That should not have happened, and Kane is going to see that immediately. All right, that's unexpected, I've got to say.
Kane definitely already knew something was up, because if you build a Stalker first, that's a harassment-oriented thing, but then you use it to deny the Overlord instead, that's a big investment just into denying scouting. So Kane knew something was up, but getting there and actually getting that confirmation is absolutely huge. And he's going to send the Overlord back around to make sure that it does complete, so that he knows exactly what he's up against. And no cancel yet, so it does look like a Minigun's going to keep going for it. What he could do is turn this into an Archon-based all-in, just because he knows the DT harassment isn't going to do anything. So that may be his follow-up here.
Yeah, we are seeing a Spore Crawler going up, of course, at each base. Roach one coming up as well. Forge is the follow-up here from Minigun.
That's interesting. I'm not sure what that's going to be, because he doesn't have the 3rd and 4th gas yet. It's not like he's headed up towards some kind of mid-game tech. No plans for a Robo yet or anything to drop a Immortal, or drop a Robo and turn it into a mid-game very heavy Immortal all-in with some kind of upgrade advantage. I'm not really sure what he's actually putting down a naked 3rd Nexus. That's very, very ballsy of him. If Kane just sends out some Speedlings, he can cancel that for sure. There's essentially no units on the map for Minigun.
Well, Kane's already scouting it. I mean, Kane has been on top of pretty much everything up to this point. That's abundantly clear. He seems to be scouting at just the right time. The fact that he managed to sneak in there was certainly a mistake from Minigun. He shouldn't have allowed that to happen, but it gave him that information. There's 22 Speedlings in production already. He's like, oh, you're putting down a 3rd? He's putting his Robo facility down there as well, which is, I mean, the only reason I could think that you would possibly do that is if you wanted to make sure that you are building Immortals kind of with a closer rush distance.
A little bit of that, and a little bit of just getting a building wall up as quickly as possible. But Kane, he misses his force fields. Kane actually just gets in there, he's going to kill everything. And this is going to be a huge advantage for him. He's going to take out the Robo, as you said, as well as the Nexus, deny that 3rd base. And Minigun has no other follow-up. He has nothing back in his main. So this might be a quick 2-0 for Kane here.
It is looking pretty bad, isn't it? I mean, he was already restricted in terms of his options after he got his DT Shrine scouted, but hey, this is messy. The Robo is going to die, and that was tech that really he didn't have to put there, and he didn't gain any benefit from putting there, certainly. And Minigun is sort of trying to chase him away with a Dark Templar, but I don't see any way that you could possibly argue from this position that Minigun is not in a really tough spot.
He even let the Robo finish, so that's an extra 200 down the drain. They're on essentially equal harvester counts, which is the one thing kind of going for Minigun, but he's just so far behind in terms of production, map control, especially army, because as long as Kane keeps scouting, which he has shown every tendency to thus far this game, he's just going to deny that third base for absolutely forever. It's already hard to take a third on here, but when you're this far behind in army, as Minigun is, that just is not going to be allowed to happen. And he has he's replacing the Robo, but he doesn't have many gateways. He has like a standing army of 4 sentries. I just really don't know what he can do here to have any chance. They are still very equal on harvesters. That's weird. It's looking like Keynes wants to just go for a Roach Hydra all in and finish it off really quickly.
Yeah, it seems to be. I think perhaps it is the amount of units that were built by Kane that sort of delayed the fact that he could have otherwise had like 80 drones at this point. But he did build a lot of Lings. He built quite a few Roaches. He's kind of getting even a little bit of luxury tech here, in my opinion, grabbing a Burrow as well, knowing that, oh, I just killed your Robo, you're not going to have any detection, so Burrow will be an option here. You're probably going to be scrambling to try and get Immortals or something along those lines, which means you may skip the Observer. And it's just a nice little safety option. And the Hydras are on the way, as you said, and Roach Hydra is absolutely effective against Gateway. No real problem there. Even the Warp Prism gets scouted on the way out here. Minigun is in just a world of hurt here.
The Warp Prism getting scouted here isn't really the end of the world, because he's not looking, well, as long as he doesn't lose it. If he loses it, obviously, that is the end of his world. He's not really looking to do damage here. He's more just looking to keep himself alive, because right now it's 3 base versus 3 base, and they're still on actually a Harvester lead for Minigun. So this is almost an all-in from Kane here. He's going kind of unnecessarily aggressive, in my opinion. So if this Warp Prism can buy him time, Minigun's absolutely happy with that. And 3 DTs could actually do a lot of damage to his base right now. Kane is pretty naked at home.
Yeah, he's now pushing forward. The Warp Prism already dead, and a couple of Hydras are just going to try and clean this up, but there's no Overseer at home, so that Spore Crawler was immediately focused down. Kane is now going to go in for the attack. There's basically nothing at home here for Minigun to defend, but he's now starting to warp in. It's just a massive army here from Kane trying to commit to kill this off, but surely Minigun cannot hold this. I mean, there's no way. There's too many units.
With Planetary Nexus and really good force fields, it might be possible. I don't know, though. That is a ton of units. But back at home, the main of Kane is essentially emptied out. The DTs are doing a ton of damage. He's slowly picking away at this army. He has Immortals out, probes pulled. I don't know. He might just barely be able to clean this up, actually.
There's a couple of ones coming in. I mean, Minigun does actually have an upgrade advantage, which I think is about the only thing going in his favor here. He also has Blink on those Stalkers, and some pretty good force fields end up trapping some of those units in, and Kane continues to sort of hammer at the door here. Kane still with the supply advantage, and funnily enough, not with the Harvester lead. His economy took significant damage from that DT attack. That was 13 workers killed, although Kane actually killed 19.
It actually took a ton of damage there. The queen in his main is gone. He lost all those Hydras that were back defending, and he's just now putting up a 4th base. He's continuing to attack, which I don't think I like. I don't think he's going to be able to break through here. That initial wave of units was gigantic, but he doesn't have the production to keep trying to all in against the efficiency of Protoss units. I really like the run by, though. Splitting him up, because Minigun right now has a very efficient but very small army. He can't afford to split it up and deal with Roaches everywhere at once. He just wants to fight head-on with his force fields. And that Burrow you mentioned early on is really picking him for the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely the right call from there. I mean, he knew, of course, that the Robo-Tech was super late and that he knew an attack was coming, so it was going to be Immortals or nothing, really. And still no Observer actually coming out from Minigun. He's focusing on Colossus production at this stage, knowing that repeated waves of Roach Hydra could do an awful lot of damage there. Strangely enough, Kane also has this really tiny flock of Mutalisks. He's got 8. He's sort of very slowly working away at this Photon Cannon here, and he loses a Mutalisk in doing so, but is trying to harass this 3rd base.
Yeah, continuing to keep Minigun off balance, which I kind of like, but he's really committing an awful lot to this without getting much economy going. And if Minigun can kind of just hold on, he's actually going to have a very good chance if it goes into mid-game. But Kane applying pressure really, really well, and this actually could break him here.
Well, a single Immortal is trying to say otherwise. The upgraded Stalkers are certainly helping out against those Mutas that are not upgraded at all. So, +2 helping, +3 is on the way. Again, this force is driven away. I mean, Kane has a massive supply advantage, but the question, I suppose, is what does he actually do with it? The mutas jump on the Colossus, and that's immediately gone there. And Kane sort of sitting inside the natural of his opponent saying, come in, come in.
And Kane is finally going to work on that probe count advantage, and with more and more mutas coming out, no Stargate anywhere near. He does have Blink, he does have the upgraded Stalkers, but I think the muta count's big enough, and he has now jumped to a 30 Harvester lead, plus the 4 bases, the 4 gas income. I think Kane has finally taken control of this game. He's kind of had control of it, but it's been very tenuous, and he's been making really kind of strange, in my opinion, really strangely aggressive decisions, but it has worked out well here. That Roach run by, I think, was really the nail in the coffin. That was what allowed him to keep Minigun off balance enough that the mutas could kick in. They could start to get this big muta flock up, and now he has just complete control of everything, and Minigun's just going to try and all in here. No way it works. And this is going to be his last-ditch attempt.
Yeah, his small army's moving across. He's not even going to have +3, actually, unless he chrono boosts it before he makes contact with the natural there. Massive run-by, and a huge Mutalisk flock is now gutting the economy of Minigun. There's very little left. 72 workers killed here by Kane. A massive number there as he goes in. And Kane already has spines up ready to go against this kind of force. They will melt, but they will delay the force for a little while. So, here it is. This is Minigun's last stand in this particular map. The Lings are coming in from behind here. Where is the force field energy? There's actually very little of it. The force fields go down, which is kind of enough to keep this alive. Minigun continues to push forward. He doesn't really have an economy to back this up, so warpins are going to be very limited. The third base just got absolutely ravaged here by Kane, who refuses to bring his Mutalisks back. He believes he can actually hold this.
Really strange decision there to just bring the Lings back out, but then Minigun messes up and
nice
terminates all of his Stalkers, so
GG.
I guess that's that. If he had managed to keep his army together, he maybe could have kind of made a game of it. It was really strange of Kane to only bring back the Zerglings. They do absolutely nothing without some support just because the force fields can completely nullify them. But yeah, with those Stalkers going down, it doesn't really matter one way or the other.
Very, very true. Well, map number 3 for this series, which could end up being a 3-0 pretty quickly, will be Frost. And we're going to be going into this one momentarily. The freedom is getting to Minigun's head. I think he actually got scared because he's gone right back to dark blue again.
He needs the comfort of the familiarity.
Yeah, he lost 2 games with different colors. Like, alright, I gotta get my head together. I'm gonna go back to something that's familiar, that feels okay.
Frost is actually a really interesting choice. To go from choosing Polar Knight to choosing Frost, unless this is Kane's map pick?
It is not. It is very much not. Loser picks.
Okay, so yeah, that's very, very strange, because that's like the 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. And they did get diagonal positions, so that even exacerbates it, but just generally speaking, this is one of the biggest maps being played in competition right now. And Polar Knight is one of the smallest, most aggressive. So this is a big switch up in strategy for Minigun. But on the last map, he did go for a very greedy build. He was going for that 2-base all-in with the DTs, and then canceled it once the got scouted and put down that 3rd Nexus. So maybe he's going to do the 2-base all-in on here, and he's just messing with Kane's mind. I don't know. It's a very strange map pick to me.
I'm interested to see how it goes, and we're going to see. Will Minigun be able to pull it back against his former teammate, or will Kane take a 3-0 sweep to go straight into tomorrow in order to try and defend his title as ShoutCraft America champion in the semi-finals? Ladies and gentlemen, this is ROOTMinigun. He is in the blue trunks, and he is playing Protoss to the southwest of Frost LE, courtesy of GameHeart, versus his opponent up to the northeast position, who's looked kind of on another level throughout this already. I wonder how much that European training is really paying off for him. The lag is clearly not stopping him at all. It is mYinsanity.Kane.
Last game we talked about whether or not losing that game, losing that first game in that fashion would affect Minigun's mindset and kind of mess him up. I didn't really think so, but after 2 losses like that, that can definitely start to get to you. Especially because last game he was playing his game. Like, if you had to describe a Minigun style of PvZ, I would say that was it. The very fast 3rd base, the Warp Prism to try and buy yourself time, the really greedy economical play early on. And it just didn't work at all. Kane was completely ready for it. He just brushed off the Warp Prism and did his own aggression anyway. A fake cannon rush coming out from Minigun here. He does have... Oh, he's actually going gateway first, so it's 100% fake. Even if that finishes, he's not going to drop a cannon.
Yeah, I wonder
but
if Kane...
Minigun at this point... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, will Kane overreact to it, but I think he's figured it out already. He pulled 3 drones off the line, then immediately said, no, I don't believe that's real.
Yeah, even if he knew right from the start that it was just going to be a fake, you can never really underestimate it, because even if the Protoss doesn't intend to invest in the cannon rush, if they just get 1 or 2 cannons up in a good position, it's going to end up being cost efficient anyway. So not at all an overreaction by him there to pull down those extra drones. But the Forge just now coming up, so obviously no real threat there. And a very early third hatchery coming out from Kane. So despite the fact that he hasn't scouted, he knows this is a gigantic map. His opponent dropped that pylon. He's probably going for Forge FE. Might as well take that super early third base.
Yeah, what exactly is stopping you from doing that? There's no probe out on the map as far as he knows. Funnily enough, the one that placed that pylon did actually escape with only 5 hit points remaining and is currently chilling by the Zelnaga watchtower up to the north of the map. A Ling is going to spot it. Minigun actually immediately reacts, which is quite nice, and that Ling will not be able to catch up to it. There's actually no speed on the way. Gas is only now just being taken here for Kane.
A reasonably early gas. That's early enough that he's probably going to go speedling before his lair and try and get some map control with it. And given that his opponent didn't go gateway expansion, he's not really going to have to worry about anything too early. So this is going to be a very comfortable opening for Kane. He's pretty much gotten away with everything he wants. He seems to have a pretty good handle on what's going on. And we don't see any commitment yet from Minigun. He has Warp Gate started, of course, and he's actually getting Stalker out quickly. Usually when you go a Stalker first, that is to go harass your opponent, get some scouting information, just try and annoy them, because without speedling out, the Stalker is essentially invulnerable. But last game we saw him go a very quick Stalker just to deny Overlord scouting, and then try and do some kind of very fast tech cheese. But a quick +1 start, so I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think he's going to play a little bit more normally here.
Yeah, certainly sinking his early gas into that and having his really safe wall at the front here. I wonder what exactly we'll see after that. Stargate is actually what I was about to suggest that we might end up seeing there. Now, while there's been a lot of hype behind the Oracle, I haven't been seeing a massive amount of use of it in this particular matchup at the kind of pro level. It's been used quite a little bit versus Terran, not necessarily so much against Zerg. Do you think Oracle's a possibility here, or we're going to be seeing Phoenix or Void Ray?
I think it's reasonably popular amongst Protosses to get one early Oracle just to go, and it's kind of like, well, it's going to get there so fast. If they actually have 3 Spore Crawlers down by the time my Oracle is there, then it kind of pays for itself anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a Drone Killer. It's kind of like a cheaper, faster Banshee. You might as well get it because it's almost going to pay for itself. So we definitely could see that. But personally, I think the quick 5 Phoenix, the more normal standard opener, and that does seem to be what he's going for. I actually kind of prefer that just because it's so powerful having those Phoenix running around. I feel like they do more for you than the Oracle is going to. Well,
Kane's scouting is, as always, perfect. Zealot is going to get shut down quite easily there, but the Overlord does end up seeing the Stargate before it dies, so it's pretty much what he wanted.
Yeah, this is the kind of opening for Protoss that it's better if they don't scout it. It'd be nice if your Phoenix were a surprise and got a bunch of drone kills. But even if it's not a surprise, the Phoenix are going to end up paying for themselves almost 100%. They give you so much map control, so much harassment potential. They're just... I would really say that this is the ideal generic PvZ opener. This is what you should go for if you don't want to take any risks, if you don't want to do anything fancy or special. Phoenix are almost always going to end up paying for themselves in one way or another. So Kane, of course, he's going to have those Spore Crawlers up. He's not going to take initial damage, but over time, they are going to pay for themselves. It's a very solid opener. And quite a few Speedlings coming out. Going to try and deny that third base, but Minigun not even going for it yet. But that's really smart play. That's a lot of Zerglings, actually. This really shows that Kane knows Minigun style. Minigun loves taking those risky early thirds, even if he is doing some kind of tech behind it. And Kane kind of tried to blind counter that, but he's not going to be able to accomplish anything now. He's just going to run up against the wall then. So that's a lot of larvae he invested in those Zerglings that aren't going towards his economy.
Yeah, and as a result, he actually has less drones. You just saw him throw a bunch of them into buildings, so he's got Baneling Nest coming up, Roach Warren, a couple more Extractors working on +1 melee as well. And what we are actually seeing a really quick Colossus coming out here, which is an interesting style. It's something that I believe we saw from Jim quite a bit in WCS, where you've got a decent amount of Phoenix, like 5 Phoenix, and then kind of Colossus play after that.
Yeah, this is really popular right now because so many Zergs are doing Ling Hydra timings into Muta Switch. So if you do this, you get that Colossus out. Colossus obviously shuts down the Hydra Ling timing, and then it gives you the potential to do a Colossus attack of your own, or you already have that Stargate up to just macro out a bunch of Phoenix and deal with the Muta Switch. In this specific case, he has a Baneling Nest going up. I'm not really sure what he's planning on doing with that, but he does have the Spire coming, so probably pretty quick Mutas. And with that third Nexus coming down, and actually only 1 sentry there, these Zerglings they're definitely going to force a cancel on the Nexus.
Yeah, certainly. And there goes the cancel. The Zealots will be able to equip themselves admirably, especially with the +1 and no +1 carapace done there. But Minigun was fully focused on defending that, as you can see, because the Phoenixes were hanging around doing really nothing. A second Stargate is coming up behind this, and a Colossus. He did build the Robo fairly early and then just didn't really do anything with it. Now he's actually transitioning with some Void Rays.
And he actually loses a Phoenix to the Queen. It's really sloppy. He does manage to catch a Queen, which is nice for him. Kind of sloppy losing that Phoenix. More and more lanes coming out, and this could be kind of scary for Minigun. He's investing so heavily into the Colossus and the Void Rays, the mid-game tech. He only has like 6 Zealots here, and he doesn't have a cannon finished or anything, and he doesn't even have a wall in around the building cannon. So these Lings and Banelings could actually be the end of him here.
I was going to say, I think Kane's given us a little bit of a show with the orange Banelings that I was looking for earlier, and is going to crash them right into, trying to crash them at the Zealots. There they go, and this third is under an awful lot of pressure. A Colossus comes in, but not quick enough to save the third base. That is cancelled a second time. Admittedly, this whole Ling Baneling style is not going to work once the Colossus count gets reasonably high.
Yeah, as good as that looked, and as scary as it kind of was, I don't like the Banelings there. I think if he only had Lings and he went in and forced that cancel, that'd be great for him. And some Corruptors out, actually, dying to the Phoenix. He needs to run those Phoenix away before they die as well, though. But he invested a lot of Banelings into that cancel, and it wasn't really worth it for him, I don't think. If we look at the Harvester count, they're dead even right now. And those Phoenix forced Kane to produce Corruptors instead of Mutas, which means he's not really getting too much map control or aggression out of them. And it looks like he's actually just going to continue investing in the Ling Baneling attacks. Both Colossus, Void Rays, Zealots, Cannons. It's hitting a tipping point here where if Kane doesn't start doing really lethal damage, he's going to end up falling behind real quick. And the Phoenix actually scout the attack, so this could go pretty good for Minigun if he's careful.
Yeah, I'm liking the fact that he's also building double Void Rays at a time, knowing that the Corruptor's there. Void Ray Colossus can work surprisingly well, especially at this point before Hive Tech and before Vipers come out, because really what else are you going to use against Colossus? You got to use those Corruptors. Ooh, almost ended up breaking his way through there. Run by would be pretty effective here, but I mean, I can't see this doing anything whatsoever, and it doesn't.
All those Banelings die for like 2 centuries. He is focusing down the Colossus, but he's going to lose all of his Corruptors for it.
Yeah.
Those Voiders, yeah, this is really just not good at all for Kane. This is kind of what I was worried was going to happen last game, except he didn't have the early game advantage to go with it.
Yeah.
He just, I don't know why he goes so aggressive against a player who plays as defensively and as well as Minigun. If Minigun takes the third base, he's going to hold on to it. I don't know. And he's continuing to go for it, so he's basically just all inning here, morphing more Banelings here. He feels like, because he killed the Colossus with that previous attack, he may be able to break through on the ground now, but without that many Void Rays out, I think he's just going to kind of kill everything.
Yeah, we're even seeing Banelings just grabbed out of the air, no problem whatsoever, so that's all being dealt with. An attempt to take another base here by Kane, sort of out of the way, hoping that his opponent won't notice it, but Minigun is probably for the first time in the series in a decent spot. Anion Pulse Crystals on the way, or Onion Pulse Crystals, as I like to say, and Warp Prism there as well. Call them Onion Pulse Crystals because it just causes a lot of Zerg tears, I gotta say.
That they do. And he's actually going Muta. I don't know, he saw the Void Rays, he decided to go Muta to try and deal with that. Even that would be pretty hard because there's so many Void Rays. But Minigun with really good game sense, before he even scouted that, he had already switched into Phoenix as well as the Phoenix range upgrade, so he absolutely knew that that was what Kane was going to go for. And I said before the match, I don't know how much these two guys actually trained together while they were en route, but it definitely seems like they're both very, very comfortable with each other's styles. They both seem to have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. And that Phoenix switch preemptively just kind of shuts down any chance Kane had of making anything happen with those Mutas. And it's a big map. He's expanding a lot. He has really good map control. So that's the one thing he kind of has going for him. But Minigun's economy, tech, production, just so strong right now. Any kind of timing before Hive is going to be really difficult for Kane to hold off. He's going to have to go for counterattacks, I think.
Yep, Warp Prism gets shut down there, so nice little grab by Kane, but as you said before, I mean, come on, 11 Mutas versus 9 Phoenix with +2 air weapon on the way, and Anion Pulse Crystals. Even with Corruptors, that's not enough to fight that, and obviously we're going to have to see some decent control here by Minigun, but for the most part, as long as you're pressing backwards, you're fine in that scenario. Your guys are going to keep shooting, you're not going to have any problems whatsoever, and any attempted aggression by Kane is suicidal here, really, I think, with Lings and Banelings. Where does he go from A? Oh, well, there's the answer to that. He's going to try for Infestors, which to me is a little bit of a Hail Mary. You've got to land those fungals in order to really make that work, and if you don't, then you might as well kiss your bases goodbye.
Yeah, he just doesn't have anything that's actually going to kill the Void Rays, even if he gets them locked down. Corruptors they're just not good against Void Rays,
No.
kind of flat out. He would like to be making a bunch of mutas, look for a fungal, kill all the Void Rays with the mutas, but with that Phoenix tech switch, that's not really going to happen. Maybe if he catches all the Phoenix in a big fungal, he can do something. But there's so many Phoenix here, he can just kind of run through and ignore the Corruptors and kill off all the mutas. And Corruptors in good numbers are okay at zoning out Phoenix, but they're never ever good at killing them. So Minigun can kind of just dance around him all day, taking little bits of damage to his shields and killing off all the mutas. And with the mutas gone, the Void Rays are going to reign absolutely supreme. Short of a big Ling run by, and Minigun's playing pretty defensively, I don't see him allowing that to happen. Oh, and he just continually scouts out the attacks before they even happen. As unlucky as Minigun was getting the previous 2 games, he's kind of making up for it here, along with really good play on his part.
Yeah, it's been rock solid for him. He's looking in a really good position. That 4th base has got it pretty much uncontested at this point. The mutas can't really do much. There's a 2nd Spire on the way here, which indicates that he'd, of course, want to go into double upgrades, really kind of heavy Sky Zerg style, but I would not be doing that in this position. We did see Scarlet successfully pull that off at the Red Bull Battlegrounds in New York, but she did it a lot earlier, and she did it a lot better as well.
Yeah, and there's actually a big Ling attack at the 3rd base while this is happening, and Minigun's kind of choosing to all in. He's just sacrificing the 3rd base, going to go for the kill, and it's going to work. I don't see any way Kane could possibly fight this gigantic, scary Protoss army right now. All the Infestors are leaving happening soon.
That's brutal. I love the decision to put a single Colossus in there as well, so that big kind of Baneling attack just won't really do anything. The DTs are trying to save this. I mean, he is making a concerted effort to save this Nexus, and he actually will. It's going to end on a couple of 100 HP, and in comes the Sky Toss, and the Golden Fleet has certainly arrived here. There's really not an awful lot that Kane is going to be able to do. There's a huge amount of Zealots on the ground here. The Air Force is scary enough in and of itself. The Lings are just running to their death, and the nail in Kane's coffin for this map, anyway, looks like it is going to be landing pretty shortly. Kane's army, in fact, is just trying to go for a base trade at this stage.
Yeah, he knows. You just one look at that Protoss army, you know you're not going to fight it with 10 mutas and some supporting Corruptors. So he goes for the base race, but just so much DPS for Minigun. He wins that almost for sure. Although, Minigun's actually taking the kind of strange decision to split up his army, half defend, half attack. I don't know if he has enough Phoenix to actually deal with those Corruptors. So it's just kind of a waste to send Stum back. But he is splitting up, killing off all the bases at once, and he has enough cannons and SAG defense and just production and army. Just enough of everything. I still feel like he's probably going to hold this off and still be pretty okay. But a smart decision for Kane to go for that base race. That was absolutely the only choice he had at that point.
Yeah, I mean, both are now in an extremely low economy situation. Army supply is heavily in favor of the Protoss, however. And if those Void Rays stay alive, then these Corruptors are really not going to do all that much, I'm afraid. And there's the GG, and Minigun is right back in the series after a really
flat on his face with that kind of thing. Just invite him to keep doing that if you're in Minigun shoes.
Yeah, certainly. All right, well, the next map is, for the first time in this series, going to be Kane's choice. It's going to be Derelict Watcher. What do you think about this?
I like this. This is much more in the vein of Frost than a Polar Knight or anything like that. I would say this is... Some people say the 3rd base is a little bit hard to secure for Protoss on here. There is that open area between the natural and the 3rd where you can do layer ground-based timing attacks. But I don't think that's too big of a deal. I think Minigun is going to be more than capable of holding onto a quick 3rd base here. I think he goes for that. Maybe even the exact same thing as last game. You just open up Stargate into the 3rd base into a air-based death ball. I think that worked out really well. I think this map is pretty conducive to it. I don't see why it wouldn't work again. I think you should try that.
Well, Kane is probably regretting his choice of 3D unit portrait for the Versus screen, which actually was the pilot of a Void Ray. So, a little poetic. Funnily enough, all of the Zerg players in this tournament decided to pick a Protoss unit as their avatar. I'm not as surprised by that as I feel I should be, really.
Not at all surprised, honestly. It can be a frustrating matchup for the time being.
Indeed, that is very, very true. Do you feel like right now it's a balanced matchup, though? Because for all the hype, I suppose, the Protoss has been getting over the last couple of months, we've been seeing a surprising amount of Zerg success.
It swings back and forth through different periods in the game. On any kind of aggressive map, any kind of smaller 2-base map, Protoss has a lot of potential early on to just do damage to the Zerg in any number of different ways. If you survive that in good footing, then you have really powerful mid-game timing attacks as Zerg. As long as you scout well and check whether they're going Colossus or Immortal and modify your composition accordingly, you can do a lot of damage with Roaches or Hydras. And then if you get your opponent off balance at all, you can just switch into Muta and snowball the game from there. But if, on the other hand, if Protoss holds on and just kind of gets up to their death ball, they just kind of win. So it's a very frustrating game as Zerg. It's you have the tools to win, and it's kind of in your hands. But if Protoss just survives, you're basically racing against the clock, and it's always uncomfortable, at least for me, to play that kind of game.
Awesome. Well, I want to ask you actually about a particular style that we've been seeing at NorthCon up to this point, but first let me introduce our players here on Derelict Watcher. To the east position, a man who is looking down and out, but has brought it back in fine fashion, I've got to say, on that map. Let's see if he can close the series back to a 2-2. In the northeast position, playing Protoss, it is the one and only ROOTMinigun. Versus his opponent, his ex-teammate to the southwest position, now playing in Europe for mYinsanity, the reigning champion of ShoutCraft America. In the red trunks, playing Zerg, it is Kane.
Kane going for a very, very early speedling build this game. And that can be hit or miss against Gateway Expansion, which is, of course, the build we see from Minigun. If you play a greedy Gateway Expansion and you let some speedlings get in your base and start running around and just wreaking havoc in general, then you can cancel the Nexus, you can do some probe damage, you can just put the Protoss on completely on the back foot. But on the other hand, if they get the wall in up, if they keep you out, prevent you from doing anything, which is also entirely possible, then it's just a terrible economic opening for Zerg, and Protoss ends up way, way ahead. And he is only going for speedling. It's not going to be like a Ling Bane all-in or anything. He takes the drones off gas. So it's really just going to be a matter of whether or not he can get Lings in the base and if he can get the aggression going. And we see an immediate Zealot from Minigun, and he hasn't shown. Some Protoss will cancel that to get the Mothership Core and the Nexus immediately after they see it's not a 10 pool. But Minigun hasn't been doing that thus far this series, so I don't think that's going to be the case. Oh, nope, he did cancel it. Never mind. So that's kind of unfortunate for him. It would have been really helpful to have that Zealot out.
Yeah, Mothership Core is on the way, but it will not spawn with enough energy to go with the Photon Overcharge here. The Lings are already on their way across the map. We will see if this does the job. Bear in mind, Photon Overcharge takes 100 energy. That Mothership Core is currently sitting on around 60. So these Lings are going to be maybe a little bit of a surprise, but Kane is going to back off, as it turns out. But there's a lot more Lings coming on. I mean, there's 10 on the field here. Looks like he wants to group them all together and go for a push all at once.
He's certainly committing to it. 12 more Zerglings for production. He's committing really, really hard to it. And I'm pretty sure Minigun didn't see those Zerglings. His Mothership Core is like right on vision range of them, but just apparently out. Because he's making a Stalker, which would make no sense if you know the Speedling all-in is coming. And Minigun is going to be in trouble here.
Yes, this could actually, that's almost certainly going to be a cancel on that base there. Certainly not going to finish, and the Mothership Core's damage is not enough. The Ling is also chasing off that probe, which is an absolutely great catch there for Kane. More Lings streaming in here, and I mean, this expansion is most assuredly going to get cancelled. There's no question about that.
Yeah, Minigun's just leaving it up to buy himself time.
Yeah.
He knew when he saw those Zerglings come in, he knew it was going to be cancelled. Gonna drop the Nexus Cannon. He has a Sentry and a Stalker, so he's not gonna die here. And I don't know, I think Kane actually kind of overcommitted to the Zerglings. I think he produced them longer than necessary.
Yeah.
He's just starting up his drone production now. But that damage has already been done. He forced to cancel on that Nexus. With that many Speedlings, he's gonna have map control, and he's gonna be able to delay the expansion absolutely forever. We actually see a very fast Twilight Council coming down. So not sure if this is gonna be cheesy DTs. I think that's kind of the only option I really see for him with this. And that's a really, really desperation kind of move there.
It certainly is, and perhaps we might see Kane just blank out of that immediately. There's only 5 workers in gas here for Minigun. I have to assume that that's a bit of an error there. And losing that expansion was obviously a big deal. Kane, as you mentioned, did invest like a huge amount into it. At the point where we saw that Nexus go down, it was actually more like 22 probes to 17 drones. But having secured that expansion and kind of putting the Protoss right back in his main and with no option to really leave, it allowed Kane to really increase his drone production significantly, and he was looking to stop that from going out. That's not going to happen anymore. There's certainly a large enough army, and yes, it is a bit of a desperation Dark Shrine going on here off of 3 gates, but I mean, I suppose he could just warp in. He'd have to warp in across the map here. This pylon over to the side would allow him to warp in on the low ground, I think, but he's not going to get a probe out there.
Yeah, no map control at all for him, unless he kind of feints a move out with this army, and I don't really think he wants to do that. It's a little bit risky, and Kane's going to know there's no way that he's actually going to be able to do any kind of warp gate attack this quickly. So I do think he's just going to have to wander them all the way across the map. There is always a possibility with DTs, and actually a really quick Roach Warren with a Lair coming. So it looks like Kane is going to continue with his very aggressive play. He's actually sending in Overlord, but I don't think it's going to see.
Well, here's a little attack coming in here, which was actually a complete failure. I'm really surprised that Kane did that. I think he just tried to get into the main, but the force fields went down, and most of the links died, which actually cedes map control almost completely.
While that was happening, Kane actually suicide and Overlord into the main. It got vision of the warping Dark Shrine, but he never actually clicked on it. So he's kind of going to be playing guessing games here, if that's a pylon or if it's a shrine.
Yeah, there's 3 spores coming up, though, so I think he's just going to play it safe and just assume that it's a shrine, and that's a safe bet considering the situation here. Down goes another Overlord. Minigun takes that out, but funnily enough, Minigun actually has the ability to take map control back now that there's almost no lings on the field. Some roaches in production here, though.
Yeah, just a couple of roaches, so that's still going to be defensive at this point. But he got that lair so quickly, and he's on such low gas. He actually only has 2 geysers mining. I think he might just go for a speed roach all in. And with that many lings in production, almost definitely. So Kane keeping up the aggressive pace. Minigun hasn't really committed to anything yet. He's not trying to take that third. He has the DTs out, but he's not losing them. He's not going to sacrifice them. And he has a Robo and a Forge coming up and kind of a wall at his natural. So if Kane overcommits here, it could be the same kind of situation as last game where Kane sees an opportunity, does some good damage, and then just kind of continues to try and put too much pressure on his opponent.
Yeah.
And Minigun will then secure himself and take an economic advantage into the mid game. Kane seemed very prone to that thus far, but here I think he's far enough ahead that it's going to be okay for him because he's just going to deny that third base forever, even if he can't do actual damage.
Yeah, we're seeing Blink as the tech option after that, but also a robotics facility coming down here for Minigun. The DTs have done precisely nothing other than force out a couple of Overseers and 3 Spores, which is probably not enough to really justify the investment into that tech. Warp Prism is coming in, though, so it is possible that these DTs might be able to do something.
Maybe. We saw that Kane in the Polar Night game, Kane was actually really lackadaisical about defending that Warp Prism DT drop, and he kind of just won anyway because he was far enough ahead he could attack and just kind of dumbly succeed with it. Oh, and a lot of units coming across the map. They are going to deny that third.
Yeah.
And
almost.
this is just such an uncomfortable position for Minigun.
Yeah, this is not really where you actually want to be as a Protoss under any circumstances here. You don't want to let the Zerg rule the map like this.
He's actually wasting a lot of time here, and Minigun now has enough units to defend that. If he had just ran the Lings in and canceled the third immediately, he would have been able to. But he has only Lings rallied across the map, and there's enough force fields from Minigun that once that Immortal is out, I feel like he's going to be able to defend this. Because there's only a handful of roaches there. He's actually way too Ling heavy to really make anything happen.
Yeah, I'd agree. And now, as we mentioned earlier, those Dark Templar are actually going to get in there. That Queen's almost certainly going to die immediately if he decides to target it down, but he doesn't. He's more focused on the fact that his third base is being surrounded here, and it's still a cancel. He actually cancels it quite early, but those Lings will certainly die. What damage? He's actually going for the lair. No, there we go. I think he just wasn't controlling the Dark Templar. He was focusing on that defense there. And Hydra's now out. The Queen has been killed here. Where is the Overseer? Where is the Overseer? It is... Oh, the Overseer is now finally making their way. Yeah. He's had to pull the drones there, and a couple of Hydras are going to die here as well. So these DTs didn't do too badly. Minigun killed 8 workers there. Does that put him back in the game, though?
I honestly think that if he had gone for the lair, he might have been able to get it, because Kane was reacting kind of poorly, kind of slowly. So you're right, that was a misclick. He was just miscontrolling it, but yeah. I think he actually could have gone for it. Kane actually got Burrow, and he's blocking that third Nexus, which is really, really good for him. I would say that the game is almost even if Minigun had been able to immediately rebuild that third Nexus, but that delay is just so huge. Minigun's economy is... Actually, they're very close in supply, and a dead even worker count once again. Like Kane going for the muta switch, and without Phoenix on the map, I fear we could see a repeat of the Polar Night game here.
We certainly could. The defense comes in here. The worker count is definitely good, but it doesn't really tell the story of the fact that I mean, it's not just oversaturated, it's massively oversaturated. The numbers up to the top there that people say, oh, you need 24 workers to saturate a base. Well, not necessarily, but he's on 29 at the natural, which is massively over-mining to say the least. And even his main, he's got 3 works on each patch, which is generally not where you want to be for the most possible efficiency. So he needs that 3rd base up so he can transfer those over. Otherwise, that worker count means nothing, really.
Yeah. In the meantime, Minigun trying a little bit more harass, but actually ended up losing both the War Prism and all the Zealots for essentially nothing. So that, with the Mutas out, no more harassment is going to be coming through here. He does have Blink, so that's going to help him hold off the Mutas for a little bit. But Kane is just happy to sit back and keep producing Mutas and gain map control with that. Looks like Minigun might actually all in here, and this is not a bad choice at all. Because those Mutas, there's not a big enough Muta flock to really go for a base race yet. He lost a lot of Zerglings on that initial cancel on the 3rd base. And he really just doesn't have much of a fighting force at all. And this is a pretty scary army from Minigun. I really like this decision. It looks like a panic all in, but I think it might work.
Yeah, and that might give him the time he needs to get that 3rd base up, and he's pretty much mined his main out now, so he's transferring all his probes over. He's still going to end up being oversaturated on those 2 bases with it, but as you said, that is a scary army from Minigun. If we look at what Kane actually has to respond to it, a handful of Zerglings, a decent amount, but with only +1 upgrade there, 5 Roaches, 18 Mutalisks, I think is probably the scariest component of that, but they're going to be going across the map and trying to take out this main. Whereas I wonder if Minigun will just commit and just smash that natural door down. It's looking like he will, and this is going to go on Scout. He's even shoving the Archon forward as it morphs, trying to buy himself as much time as possible. Now it's been spotted.
Yeah, those 2 Archons there make this infinitely more scary, because the Zerglings are the big part of the army that Kane was kind of relying on. And against 2 Archons plus force fields, they do almost nothing. Minigun does have to be careful. He's giving Kane a lot of time to build up army here, and time is of the essence when you're doing a build like this. But 3 Archons against Mutaling with very little Roach Hydra support, no Banelings at all.
Yeah.
If Minigun has good control here, good force fields, he can absolutely win.
Yeah, he's got this nice little... He doesn't really want to move... Oh, a few freebies actually miss rally there, and it looks like Kane's just saying, I'm not fighting that in a million years. Let's go for a base trade.
I like that decision by him. More and more Archons coming in from Minigun. There's absolutely no way it would be the army now with 5 Archons there. But Minigun's kind of prepared for this. He has 5 cannons and a Planetary Nexus. Oh, he loses the Mothership Core before he casts the Planetary Nexus, so...
Yeah, that's not too good. The Mutalists making their way into the 3rd base. The run-by is now streaming into the natural here as well, and here we go. This is Base Trade City on both sides right now. Tech is being destroyed. The bases are being destroyed. The Blinkstalkers take out the 3rd base. The natural just fell. And Minigun's army has a huge amount of firepower. That's what I would say. Those hatcheries fell so quickly. The Immortals are working on the lair here as well. Those bases are going to die very, very rapidly indeed. And this is now turned into a very chaotic game where there's actually 65 drones and 2 probes. That's the last... Where's the last probe? It's still mining gas, like a brave little soldier there on the 3rd base. But this is now going a little bit wild, as Kane is pulling all of his units right now up to the top base, which has already been scouted.
Yeah, with no probes out on the map, Minigun can't really commit to like a complete base race, but he also can't split up his army like this. The mobility of the Mutaling is going to kick in and kind of just destroy him. He does manage to reconnect his army in time, though, I think. Oh, he's actually just going to magic block the Archons and go for it. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't think it is.
No, it didn't seem to work too well. Minigun realized what was going on, pulls an Archon back, only loses 1. There's 3 more there, and +2 Blinkstalkers backing that up, and we have sentries there with full energy. So the Guardian Shield will be super effective there, and this last base is going to go down. So this is, I mean, this is still looking pretty good for Minigun, even though the supply is very deceptive, because 40 supply of that's actually in drones here for Kane, which is not really going to help him against an army of this size. He's got to really rely on the Mutalisks here, and they're already taking massive damage from the Archons.
Yeah, losing more and more drones, and as soon as that hatchery falls, the drones are literally worthless, with nothing to mine too. They're just dead weight, and the mutas are pretty much all gone. It's a decent standing army from Kane still. It cannot fight army versus army, but it might be able to eliminate Minigun faster than Kane can eliminate him.
I'm actually surprised that Minigun didn't finish that hatchery off on 125, because a lot of minerals have been mined since then, but it's now finally going to die. The mutas just got obliterated. There's only 6 of them left against 2 Archons and 10 Blink Stalkers. The supply counts are evening up, but Minigun is in a decent spot. The Lings come in to shut down attempted mining here on the 3rd base. This is a weird situation. I feel Minigun's got the edge, but what do you reckon?
This is very, very close with those 2 Archons there. I think he has enough firepower to just win army versus army, and with no hatcheries left, that's about all that matters. Those drones coming in. This is all going to come down to control. Both of them are capable of winning still.
Yeah, and here it is. The Archons are getting focused down. One just fell. A second one. The drones are actually coming off the line, and they're doing significant damage to the lanes coming in. And there's the GG. The drones are the heroes of this match.
There. They absolutely they caught him before he could get up that ramp, and that was the end of it. If he could have bottlenecked him, especially with that one sentry remaining, he absolutely could have won that. But the drones catching him and keeping him on the low ground really won it for Kane there.